Let's go, pal.
Hello fellow legends, Dapster Plays here with more Cyberpunk lore for you guys. Today we're going to get into the Aldecaldos, which if you do not know, they're one of the 7 major nomad nations. The Aldecaldos are the second biggest nomad nation, only topped by Snake Nation, which has over 1 million members. Yeah, I know, that's a lot. So before we get into this video, I want to say that I made a Nomad Lore video based on nomads in general instead of just the Aldecaldos. So if you're interested, the link will be in the description below and in this card above. Go ahead, check it out if you haven't already. I've also included timestamps in this video and all my lore videos. So if you're looking for a specific subject, go give them a look. Anyways, I know some of you aren't going to want to look at another video, so I'll briefly describe what a nomad is. The Nomads are one of the many factions in the Cyberpunk universe. And according to the Cyberpunk wiki on Panam, which is where I get most of my resources from, all the sources are in the description below if you're interested. Nomads can be simply defined as road warriors and gypsies who roam the highways. However, they're more than that. Nomads are a faction in the Cyberpunk universe that believe in being independent from the corporations, the government, and practically everything else. They never stick to one spot and roam the desert. They treat each other like family, and as far as they're concerned, they are family to each other. If you want to know more about nomads in general, watch my Nomads Lore video. Otherwise, let's get right into the Aldecaldos. So who are the Aldecaldos? Well, like I said, they're one of the 7 major nomad nations to form. Not only that, but they are the very first nomad nation. So I guess you could say that they started it all. And the Aldecaldos are the main nomad nation in Cyberpunk 2077. They're one of the more well-known nomad groups on the west coast, but never as a single group simultaneously. They have caravans that operate in the free states on the west coast, where they transport passengers and merchandise over state borders in large, well-guarded convoys. So with all that going on, how are the Aldecaldos structured? So like I said, the Nomads are one of 7 main nomad nations. And a nation is the biggest structure for nomads, and a nomad nation numbers in the hundreds of thousands in people. The Aldecaldos have over 10,000 members, but only about 500 to 600 in the Night City area. The current leader of the Aldecaldos is Saul, and Panam Palmer can also be co-leader with him if you do her side missions. Again, if you want a more in-depth explanation of the nomad structure, watch my nomad video because it goes really in-depth. Alright, let's get into the Aldecaldo history, which is pretty long. It all started in the 1980s to 90s during the collapse period. The collapse is pretty much a hard time in history for the US. It was like a depression, but even worse. I'll probably make a video on it someday, sooner or later, so be sure to check my channel or subscribe if you're into that kind of stuff. But without getting too into details, the collapse is pretty much the downfall of the US. But don't worry, it gets better, sort of, as you can tell by playing the game Cyberpunk. During this time, LA became a war zone full of gangs, violence, theft, arson, and much worse. That was also happening in many other cities during this time. It was a complete disaster, and all that was missing was hope. It was during this time that the first nomads formed, except they weren't nomads at this point yet. It was just Juan Aldecaldo and his family. Juan's story didn't just start at this time though, it started before the collapse. He started a migrant. He had a pretty decent home life, he succeeded in school, and was the first of his family that went to college. He even got an engineering degree and went into the defense industry. Not bad, huh? Juan was a good man and he raised his family as best as he could while in the defense industry. Now that seems alright, but 2 decades before the collapse, the defense industry took a few hits already. This was due to the lack of wars and budget problems. And unfortunately, the industry had to downsize, ridding Juan of a job. Now this was bad because much of the extended Aldecaldo family still depended on Juan. But Juan, being a really nice guy, even with his setbacks, he tried his best to help him, even taking a job at the grocery store. He even sold his home just to buy enough food. But even after all that effort, the inevitable happened. He went spiraling down into cheaper neighborhoods over and over until they hit the very worst of all slums. Even with all this happening, he tried to stay positive and he begged his son and daughter to stay in school and escape their bleak future. However, things got worse. His daughter died in a car accident the day before her 17th birthday. Yeah, I know, it's really sad. And the son of Juan was distressed and hurt from his sister's death, so he dropped out of school. After that, his son started dating a Filipino girl from a gang called the Red Dogs. Yeah, I know, that's bad news. And he eventually became a member as well, and that led to the inevitable. Juan's son, Ramon, was shot at a robbery homicide on his 19th birthday, and he was of course killed. And Juan was only a few blocks away when it happened. Of course, the police and the news reporters were on the crime scene shortly after it happened. The reporter came up to Juan and asked a question, and he blew up on him. He started ranting about reporters, saying that there was no place for them there, that they were vultures and jackals who made a living on the poor victims of the country. He then started saying that his son was a good boy, and to tell the audience that he was a good boy with a good family in hard times, and that if he was able to be sent off to school, he would have been a great man, not like them and their cameras, but a good man. And then he goes on with that kind of stuff. It really was a hard time, and in 2002, the padre died from a heart attack in his sleep. So Juan struggled alone, leading the family as best as he could, and the Aldecaldos continued to grow and actually do good under his guidance. As he grew old, he began seeking a successor. However, he wouldn't find one for a while. The elders of the family pushed really hard for an election, but Juan didn't want anything to do with politics. Just before this, the Mexico City redevelopment contract was signed. Then Juan had a heart attack. He survived, but it really did set him back. Even then though, he continued to lead the Aldecaldo family. The years in Mexico City were really good for the clan. Juan's health got better, and the family had time to consolidate and re-equip themselves. Although it appeared to be really scary at first, Mexico City actually proved to be very profitable as well. When there were walkers that came across Mexico, the Aldecaldos helped them. They even helped them in moving on to other nomad families if they wanted. This of course made the government angry, and the government tried to keep the clan from coming back across the border. But as you can tell, there were too many nomads and not enough border guards. When the Aldecaldos returned to the US, they brought many things with them. They brought the body of Juan Aldecaldo after he died, with him to be buried with his wife and his children in LA. They brought a new nomad group, fresh from the long walk, and bitter about the way they've been treated. They also brought a fan favorite, Johnny Silverhand. Yup, Johnny stood with the Aldecaldos for some time in Mexico City. He was hiding with them for 2 whole years. The most important one that they brought back with them though, was their new leader, a man named Santiago. Okay, Santiago was born in LA, raised in the clan, and tempered dealings in a long walk. He is described as a charismatic leader, and was appointed leader at Juan's deathbed, but now he is famously known by the Aldecaldos as Santiago Aldecaldo. In Cyberpunk 2077, Saul Bright currently leads the Aldecaldos in the Badlands, which is that desert area around Night City, if you don't know. And depending whether V helps them out in a side mission, Panam Palmer can also possibly become the co-leader alongside with Saul, or the only leader. The Aldecaldos make money from scavenging and hiring themselves as manual farm laborers. Some Aldecaldo families also engage in bootlegging and transporting stolen goods. There are some clans that go all in and focus solely on delivering these packages all along the Nomad Trail all the way to the twin crime cities, which are Chicago and Phoenix if you don't know. However, this is not something that all the Aldecaldo clans do. The Aldecaldos are at constant war with the Wraiths, and the Wraiths are their biggest enemies. If you don't know who the Wraiths are, they're the largest group of Wrath and Shivs. The Wrath and Shiv are practically rogue nomads and criminals. And if you played the Fallout games, they're practically the equivalent of raiders. So what is the role of the Aldecaldos in Cyberpunk 2077? Well, the Aldecaldos are the main nomad presence in Cyberpunk 2077. I mean, the Wraiths are also a main presence, but they're more of ex-nomads rather than nomads. Also, there is an ending where you can side with the nomads, which is arguably the happiest ending in the game. All you gotta do to unlock it is do the 3 side missions with Panam and the Aldecaldos, which ends with Queen of the Highway. So after you finish that mission, you should be good to go. In Cyberpunk 2077, the Aldecaldos are located in the Badlands, right outside of Night City. And if you don't already know, you're usually introduced to them in the main storyline. After Act 2 starts in the game, which is after that first mission you do with Johnny Silverhand, you'll get the Nomad questline after the introduction mission, which is called Playing for Time. The Nomad questline starts with a quest called Ghost Town. It is during this mission that you meet Panam Palmer, and she introduces you to the Aldecaldos. After these 3 main quests, you get to choose whether you want to be more involved with the Aldecaldos, or you can forget all about them and continue on with your life. The Aldecaldos seem to me as a total contrast to living in Night City. I mean, think about it. They live outside of Night City, so it's peaceful and quiet. They believe in sticking together and treating each other like family, whereas the majority of Night City is hostile to you and are crooked. Now don't get me wrong, it definitely has exceptions like Jackie and Judy and some others, but for the most part, I'm sure we can all agree that a big part of Night City is crooked and hostile. The Aldecaldos are completely different than Night City, and I think that's why the creators made them have a significant presence in the game. Another thing is that when you start in the game, you get to choose to have a nomad life path. This will mostly affect your dialogue choices and some other options that you have in the game, but it's mostly just dialogue. However, in a role-playing sense, this really does affect the overall feel when you interact with the Aldecaldos and other nomads. And there are just so many different dialogue options you get, especially with Panam. The game even gave me some yellow color dialogue options, which means they're important. So if you care about dialogue, I really advise that you do not underestimate this. But if you don't, I guess it doesn't really matter. We all have our own opinions. Alright, there are many important characters in Aldecaldos, so I'm gonna give a brief description of a few of them, nothing too in depth though. However, I might make a few videos on some of them in the future. Alright, let's start with Panam Palmer. I think we can all agree that Panam has a pretty significant role in the Aldecaldos. When Panam is introduced to V in-game, she had recently left the Nomads, but depending on your actions you can get her to rejoin them. If not, she'll just try to be a solo mercenary. Although Panam seems like a hothead at first impression, as you get to know her more, you get to see that she really does care about the Aldecaldos, like a lot. Alright, let's talk about Saul right now. Saul is the current leader of the Aldecaldos in the Badlands area. He became leader of the Aldecaldos when they went into a fragile and dangerous state, so bad that one mistake can make them lose everything. He seems really hot-headed, but that's why, he's under a lot of stress. He's constantly fighting with Panam throughout the game because they both have different views on leadership. But at the end of the day, he really does try his best. Next up is Mitch Anderson. Mitch is one of the most loyal and respected members of the Bright family in Aldecaldos. He's really good friends with Panam and he's usually helping fix things back at camp. He served in the Unification War with the Free States, and if you don't know what that was, the Unification War is a war that took place in 2069 to 2070. It was between mainly the new United States, which is NUSA, and the Free States, which are a handful of states that declare themselves independent from the government, but are still in trade and usually in good terms with the NUSA. Mitch suffered from cyberpsychosis, which in a nutshell is going crazy from having too much cyber tech, and he also had PTSD from the war. But he eventually recovered from these two things. Now let's talk about Santiago Aldecaldo. Although he isn't a main presence in the Aldecaldos of Cyberpunk 2077, he is pretty important as you can see in the Aldecaldo history. He was the second leader of the Aldecaldos after Juan. Santiago is described as reserved and quiet, but charismatic. He was definitely a great leader to the Aldecaldos and very respected. At one point in the game, your character V even gets a flashback through Johnny Silverhand's memory. This is because Santiago helped Johnny Silverhand stay undercover for some time. You can even ask Saul about Santiago at camp. I think he gets a little jealous.
Santiago used to be a nomad, long time ago.
Why's folks suddenly recollecting Santiago?
Friend of mine did a job with him once.
That's one old friend you got. He's a legend, all right. Wouldn't say he was my role model, but, well, he was the man for his time and place.
You don't think he was all he was cracked up to be?
They say he was a big city nomad, best of both worlds. Except there ain't no such thing. You're either loyal to your family, or you ain't.
Doesn't loyalty to your friends count for something?
Maybe it does, but then you end up like Santiago. He snuffed it because some lunatic wanted to blow Arasaka to smithereens. What a friend.
Alright, so let's end the video with my thoughts. If you don't care about what I think about the Nomads or the Aldecaldos, then you can stop the video now. Otherwise, here are my thoughts. I think that the Aldecaldos are wonderfully made. I say that the creators did awesome with them. they really portrayed their family aspect with the Nomads pretty well. I mean, just sitting around the campfire with the Aldecaldos talking with each other as a guy is playing a guitar, it's just so peaceful and relaxing. And with all that craziness happening in Night City, it's pretty unique. This kind of brings me back to what I was saying earlier. The Aldecaldos and all the Nomads, practically, are like a direct contrast to Night City. The game did pretty well in showing their nomadic nature and how they stay independent from the other groups and constantly move camp. They even move camp throughout the game. So overall, I really like the Aldecaldos. They're my favorite group in the game. Which brings me to the bad about the Aldecaldos. I said this in my other Nomad video, but I want to say it again just to make a point. The one problem I had with the Aldecaldos is that they didn't have enough side content. You're probably like, Dabster, that's not really a problem. But hold on, let me explain. I mean, the main storyline for the Aldecaldos is amazing. I didn't want to put down the remote. However, this becomes a great and noticeable problem when you beat the game and get sent back into Night City. So if you're like me and your favorite parts of the game were with the Aldecaldos and Panam, you're gonna go back to your favorite faction, which is the Aldecaldos. And you're gonna be pretty disappointed that there's literally only one side mission for them. This isn't counting the 3 side missions for Panam, but you need to do those 3 missions to beat the game with the Nomads. What are you gonna do after that? The camp is just stuck doing the same thing forever. And maybe it would be a little more live if the main people at the camp have different lines throughout your progression into the main storyline. You know, kind of like how it is in Fallout 4 when they had main characters tell you their thoughts on the main events happening throughout the game. But this is so not the case with Cyberpunk 2077. They only have 1, or if you're lucky, 2 lines from the first mission that you help them out. So you can't even talk to your favorite characters from the camp after the first time, like Panam, Mitch, or even Saul, the leader. He has 1 line. But like I said, this is the one and only problem I have. This whole problem can be easily fixed with DLC, and hopefully they do fix it with DLC. Hey, maybe we'll get lucky and it's included in the free DLC, but I don't know about that. But anyways, if you guys agree with this, let the people know that you want more Nomads DLC. Maybe we'll get it. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Aldecaldos. Anyways, I hope you guys are liking this kind of content because I find them fun. If you liked the video, don't forget to leave a like to show support, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for future updates on new content. Thanks for watching, and God bless.